Hey guys, it's Amandeep from Aman Graphics, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to use Photoshop CC or CS6, any version you have. So without further ado, let's begin. Before the video starts, I'd like to say if this video does end up helping you out, please don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, as it would help support the channel a lot. And if you do enjoy the content I upload on this channel weekly, do not forget to click on the notification bell. That way you'll be notified every time I upload. Now let's begin. When you open up Photoshop, it should look similar to this, depending on what theme you have and however you've customized it. Now if you're absolutely new, I'll teach you through everything which you need to know, exactly the basic guide. Now don't expect me to teach you anything advanced like photo manipulation, like making your skin clear and everything like that. Those are really advanced tutorial which I could teach you, but maybe in the future, if this video hits like a good amount of likes, I'll do another Photoshop tutorial. But for now, this basic tutorial should help you out. Now if you want to create a canvas based on your preferences, go on to File, New, and adjust the width and height according to your preferences. So if I change the width to something like 1920 by 1080, and you can name the file to whatever you want, I'll just name it test. Now if you want it to be a specific size, there are some default presets like United States paper or the default Photoshop size, the default presets which you might want to use if you're doing something based on what you do, for example web design, or based on mobile devices. You can choose the size of different mobile screen sizes, so just like that. But for me, I just keep it on to pixels. You can change the units as well. I personally like pixels because I usually create thumbnails and graphics for YouTube, which pixels are easier to understand if you're doing stuff for YouTube. However, if obviously you are doing something with paper, then you might want to use inches or centimeters, but I'm going to use pixels. So let me just change it to 1920 by 1080. The resolution, you can keep it to the default one. However, if you do feel like you want to change it, you can. I'm just going to keep the resolution to 72, and that would be fine for me. Then you can go ahead and click OK, and your canvas should appear. Now if you want to add text, you can go onto the text tool and you can choose which text you want to use. There are various fonts available, and if you want to install fonts of your preference, you can go to dafont.com and download fonts, which is a free site in which you can download free fonts. Now we've done with the text tool, you can also do much more with text. So if I just type hello, I could create much more with just text. If I go on Control T, that's a good shortcut, and hold Shift to increase the size of something without making the image go out of proportion or being stretched. Hold Control and hover over objects. It will tell you the exact size and position it is in. If you are on newer versions, older versions don't have this guide feature. And if you want to add different effects to your text, you can right click and go on to blending options of that layer, and you can add strokes, gradient overlays, and the different blend modes like overlay, and much more. You can even add a drop shadow if I just adjust it. I'm doing this really quickly, but obviously you should test out what works good for you. And as you can see, this text looks really good after those effects. So obviously effects do help make the text look better. Now these effects work for any object at all, not only text. For example, I could also make a shape using the shape tool. There are multiple shapes you can make, like the ellipse tool, where you can make curved shapes like circles and different things like that. Rectangle tools and rounded rectangle tool. But if you want to create a custom shape, you can use this obviously. From here, there are some default shapes which Photoshop provides you with. Like for example, if you have a company and you want to make the copyright symbol, the blending options also works for this object as well. So if I go into blending options, and I could add a stroke to the no copyright mark, and decrease the opacity, add different effects, and also a drop shadow if I want. As you can see, these layer styles work for all types of different things. So obviously Photoshop does provide you with these things, but if you want to create rectangles and different shapes like those, then you can use the tools based on what you like. Now you can customize the shape by using the properties panel. If you do not see the properties panel, you can go on to window and then search for properties, and then it should appear somewhere here, properties. Just click on that and then it should appear. And for example, if you do mess up your workspace, you can go into window, workspace, reset essentials, and that way it will go back to its original state. Now you must know how layers work, as the layers is a really important part of Photoshop itself. So if I this is my first layer, then I could add a new layer by Ctrl+Shift+N. It's a really good shortcut instead of clicking this icon, which is new layer. So that's another layer, and then Ctrl+Shift+N, then I have a shape, and then I'll add another shape, and then another shape. Alright, so how layers work. The layers on the top will be the visible layers, and the layers at the bottom will be the ones which are backwards. If you've used Microsoft products like PowerPoint or Word, then you'll know what bring forward and bring backwards is. So you know how you bring objects forwards and backwards, that's how layers work. So if I put the gradient below layer 0, that won't be visible, but if I put it above, then it will be visible. So if I go on Ctrl+T, hold Shift to keep the layer in proportion and decrease the size, this is forward and the white canvas is backwards. However, if I bring it below, then that won't be visible as it is backwards to the layer 0. So if I even decrease this, then as you can see, the blue gradient which I just put below layer 0, you cannot see it. So that's how it works. So if I put this rectangle as well at the bottom, then you won't be able to see it, as this is backwards to all of these layers. So these are the dominant layers in a sense, and then these layers which are backwards to the layers at the front. So that's how layers work, if you didn't know how layers work. So I could add filters. So if I go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that way I can blur this image out. But obviously as I blur it, the edges will become even more softer, so it won't fill up the canvas. So I could blur images, and I'm not going to apply that, but you can pixelate, crystallize, okay, and that will apply to the image. So that's how you can make mosaics and different things like that. But you can also add different effects using the adjustments panel. So this will be in the essentials workspace. So if I create a new layer, Ctrl+Shift+N, and click on the brightness and contrast, I could increase the brightness and decrease the contrast. This already makes a layer, so I don't think I needed to make that layer. So this creates an automatic layer, so I could increase the brightness and then increase the contrast, or maybe decrease the brightness. And then I can, if I don't like this a lot, like there's a big change, then I could decrease the opacity of this effect using the opacity option right here. You can also go on the saturation option, in which you can change the color of the image. Like it can go from green to blue to red to yellow, different colors, and you can change how light and dark this image is, and you can increase and decrease the saturation. Also, you can change color balance. So if I want this to be a bit more blue, then I can do that. But if I don't want this to be too much blue, I can decrease the opacity of the effect from right here. and there are many different options for you to try, so do not hesitate to mess around. These are the basic things of Photoshop. You can just experiment yourself as well, but obviously there's a lot more. This is just a basic tutorial. There's also pen tools in which you can cut out the image. There's also this magic wand tool where it detects certain parts of the image as a whole, and then you can cut it out in different things. But the basic things you have learned, so I think that should be it for the tutorial. As you can see, they're different things. Some things are really obvious, like the color picker thing. You can just change your color using this panel. But if you're using older versions, you might see a spectrum in which you can just hover through the spectrum in CS6 and older CC versions. As I said, if this tutorial did help you out, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That way you come across my videos more often. And if you do enjoy the content I upload on this channel, press on the bell notifications icon. That way you'll be notified every time I upload. I hope this short Photoshop tutorial helped you out. And yeah, take care. Thanks for watching. Peace out.